I call the member for Hasluck.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to acknowledge the words of my three parliamentary colleagues in speaking on this motion. I think one of the most important things that should always be remembered is when the Honourable Kevin Rudd, as the Prime Minister, delivered the apology, it served as a catalyst for the change that occurred within the immediacy of that apology, and that was the healing process. And it was the bringing together of so many Australians who've walked together for some time, building the relationships and forging change. But I think the more important element to this was the reform work that commenced after that. And that reform work was the COAG reform agenda, because out of that came a number of initiatives. There were 7 agreements under financial relationships with states and territories. But more importantly, there were 26 national partnership agreements. All of them have measures that are both tangible, that have reality to them, and go to the core of the delivery of government services. I also believe that Sorry Day now should be a celebration of the jewels in the crown of achievement that is occurring across this nation. I think importantly, there are many things that are now working, driven in partnership or driven exclusively by people whose passion to make a difference is transforming the mindset that prevailed for a long time. I think the other thing that is important in all of this is that the long-term thinking and beneficial gain that will be made through the initiatives that have been implemented by the government will have a long-term consequence in that it is enabling young people, young Aboriginal Australians, to walk a pathway that many of us at my age fought for. And that in that journey, what they will achieve is a closing of a gap that will be much more significant because they've helped shape it as well. I think within one of the greatest things that we can do is to look at all of the agreements and to look at the national partnership agreements and then measure the success of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders against all of those measures, not just the Indigenous ones. Because it is when we measure against the societal measures for each of the NPAs and each of the agreements, and we have gap closure in those fields as well, then I believe that we can then truly say that we are closing the gap. Because as one of my colleagues referred to, 75% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people live within urban populations. And in many senses, when you look at the NPAs, they are targeted to rural and remote regions. They are focused, and I have no problem nor challenge with that. But if we are to address the urban context, then the application of the 7 agreements and the national partnership agreements will certainly see us close those gaps. But we've got to change our thinking in respect to it. And we shouldn't talk about mainstream services, because mainstream services really are government services. It's how we access Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people into that whole gamut and that whole range of services that state and territory and Commonwealth governments provide through their agencies. I would rather see at the end of 10 years that we can tick off that in a number of agreements and national partnership agreements, we can honestly say as a nation we have made substantial gain and progress. Because when we say that and we can tick off on that, that means that we have achieved the closing of the gap based on merit, not based on the fact that we've had to pour more money into targeted national Indigenous agreement arrangements. They should complement the work that we do for broader society. And certainly in the discussions we've had at different times within the expert panel meeting, one of the other elements I think is absolutely critical, and I made the comments this morning in the chamber, is we've got to have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as equal partners at any table at which we negotiate new arrangements, the delivery of services, policy development, and the things that will make a difference to their lives. And I hope that in 20 years' time we have Australians looking for an Indigenous family heritage linkage, where they can proudly say, we have Aboriginal heritage within our family. Thank you.